Hey, I'm your storyteller. I'd love to know where you're watching from. You can tell me in the comments section. When you are ready, lean back, and let's dive into this week's horror stories. I worked as a 911 dispatcher for a small county in the Midwest for about 5 years. It wasn't exactly a thrilling job most nights, just a lot of noise complaints, minor accidents, domestic disputes, the usual. But one call has stuck with me ever since. It started on a Wednesday night. It was around 2:30 a.m., that dead hour when things usually go quiet. My coworker had stepped out for a smoke break, and I was the only one in the room when the line lit up. I answered like always. 911, what's your emergency? There was static at first, faint but constant. Then I heard a woman's voice. She was whispering, like she was trying not to be heard.
"Please help me,"
she said.
"He's in the house."
I straightened up in my chair immediately. "Ma'am, can you tell me your address?" There was a pause. I could hear her breathing.
"He's coming up the stairs,"
she whispered.
"Please hurry."
My stomach dropped. I repeated my question a little louder this time. "Ma'am, what's your address?" And then, faintly, I heard her say, 1437 Elmside. After that, the line went dead. I dispatched officers right away, gave them the address and the details. They arrived within minutes. The radio crackled a few times as they did their sweep, and then one of them came back over the channel saying, "Dispatch, the residence at 1437 Elmside. It's not standing. It's a total loss." I asked what he meant. He told me the house had burned down months ago, completely destroyed in a fire that took the lives of a woman and her husband. I double-checked the address, thinking maybe I heard it wrong, but I hadn't. It matched exactly what she had told me. I was shaken, sure, but I told myself there had to be some kind of mistake. It didn't make sense, but I moved on. We get weird stuff like that sometimes. Pocket dials, interference, prank calls. But then it happened again. 2 nights later, around the same time, that same number popped up. Same caller ID, same static, same woman.
"Please help me. He's in the house."
I asked for her name, tried to keep my voice calm, but it was identical to the previous call down to every word. It was like the same call was repeating itself. I sent officers again, even though I knew what they'd find. The house was still nothing but a burned-out shell. The property had been fenced off. No way anyone was in there. The next morning, I talked to my supervisor about it. He looked uneasy but told me to log it as a system anomaly. The number, he said, had been disconnected months ago after the fire. I remember thinking maybe someone had hacked into our system, like a prank or some weird experiment. But deep down, I didn't really believe that. A week went by. I tried to put it out of my mind, but then one night around 2:30 again, it came through. Same number, same voice. However, this time I didn't say anything right away. I just listened. It started the same way. First static followed by the woman saying,
"Please help me."
This time there was a new sound in the background. Heavy stomps, creaking boards, then a slam, like a door closing. The hair on my arm stood up.
"He's in the house,"
she whispered. I wanted to hang up, but I didn't. I sat there with my heart pounding until the line cut out. I checked the timestamp, saved the recording, and marked it for review. The next day, I dug into the records for that address. The fire report said it had started in the early morning hours around 3 a.m. The cause was listed as arson. The husband was found near the doorway. The wife was found upstairs near the phone. She had been trying to call for help. That detail stuck with me. I started dreading that hour. Every night when the clock hit 2:20, I'd start staring at the screen, waiting. Most nights nothing came through, but every few days the line would light up again. Same number, same voice. Sometimes the call was shorter, sometimes longer. Once, she didn't speak at all. I just heard movement and something that sounded like a faint sob. I finally asked one of the tech guys to trace the signal manually. He said the line was bouncing, rerouting through old infrastructure. In plain English, it was coming from nowhere specific, like the system was replaying data that didn't exist anymore. He couldn't explain how. After a few weeks, the calls stopped completely. Part of me was relieved, part of me wasn't. It felt wrong that they just ended. One night, months later, I was working an overnight shift again. Everything was quiet. I leaned back in my chair when I heard static crackle softly through my headset. It wasn't from a call, just noise on the line. And then I heard the same voice that had been calling me for months.
Please help me.
I jumped and yanked the headset off. The line wasn't active. There was nothing on the board. No incoming call, no recording. I checked the phone log. No entry, no timestamp. I quit the job about a year later. I often think about it. If that woman is somehow trapped, unable to move on. It set a permanent mark on me. I still remember the number by heart to this day. I've been with the department for 15 years now, long enough to know that most calls we get turn out to be nothing. False alarms, misunderstandings, lost hikers who walk out before we even find them. But there's one call I worked back when I was in District 4 that I still think about more than I probably should. It started as a missing persons report. A 29-year-old guy from out of state, supposedly hiking alone through a stretch of woods that bordered 3 different jurisdictions. He'd sent a GPS ping to his girlfriend before losing service, somewhere deep inside our district lines. Normally, search and rescue would handle something like that, but since the last coordinates were close to private property, me and my partner were sent out first to check. We left around 9 p.m. It was early fall, cool enough that you could see your breath, but not freezing. The area was remote, so there were really no houses or cabins marked on our maps, just miles of logging roads and unmaintained trails. The GPS signal we had was about 3 miles in from the main road. We parked where the dirt turned too soft for the cruiser and continued on foot. My partner, who I'll just refer to as Joe for privacy reasons, had been with the department longer than me. He was one of those guys who never seemed rattled by anything, the kind of person who could joke through just about any situation. But that night he was quieter than usual. We both were. About half an hour in, our flashlights picked up something strange ahead. A narrow path that didn't show on the satellite maps. It looked recently used. Fresh footprints. Boot prints mostly, but a few smaller ones too. Could have been hikers. Could have been anyone. We followed it. The path opened into a small clearing, and that's when we saw the cabin. It wasn't on any of our property records. Small, single story, made of dark wood that looked aged but not falling apart. The windows were dusty, but one of them had a small light flickering inside, like a lantern or a candle. Joe glanced at me, and I remember him muttering, "Guess someone forgot to log this one." We radioed it in. "Possible unregistered structure in search area," and then approached. The door was closed. I knocked, called out that we were police. No one answered. We decided to enter even though we probably shouldn't have. Inside it smelled faintly of smoke and something metallic. There was a sleeping bag laid out on the floor next to an open backpack. A camping stove sat on the table, still warm. There were food wrappers, water bottles, a half-eaten protein bar. Everything looked like someone had been there within the last few hours. "Guess we found our hiker," I said quietly, but there was no sign of him. We split up to look around. Joe checked the back room while I stayed in the main area, radioing dispatch to update them. I gave our coordinates and told them we'd found signs of recent occupancy, but no person yet. While I was talking, I noticed something on the shelf near the small wood stove. It was an old metal badge, worn, scratched, but unmistakable. I picked it up, turned it over in my hand. The number was still readable. 714. It stopped me cold. Badge 714 had belonged to Officer Daniel Holt. He'd gone missing 8 years ago while responding to a call just outside our district line. I remembered it clearly. They found his cruiser abandoned on a service road, driver's side door open with the engine still running. No trace of him. Everyone in the department knew that story. It was the kind of thing old-timers would bring up once in a while, always ending with, "He probably just walked off the job." But holding his badge in that cabin sent a chill through me. I called out for Joe. "Hey, you need to see this." He came back from the other room. "What is it?" I handed him the badge. His face changed immediately. He didn't say anything, he just stared at it, then looked at me like maybe I'd brought it as some kind of sick joke. "Where'd you find that?" "Over there," I said, pointing. "On the shelf." He walked over, checking the area himself. There were wet footprints near the stove, one set fresher than the others. They led to the door, then out into the woods behind the cabin. We followed them for about 50 yards before they disappeared into softer soil. I swear we both heard something move deeper in the trees, a faint crunch, like someone stepping just out of view. But when we called out, no one answered. We went back inside and decided to take photos and document everything. When I took a shot of the table, I noticed something I hadn't before. There was a radio scanner sitting next to the stove, the kind police use to monitor dispatch channels. It was turned off, but the battery light blinked red like it had just died recently. We reported everything to command and were told to hold the scene until morning. Backup would arrive at first light, so we stayed. 2 officers sitting in a cold, dark cabin that wasn't supposed to exist, surrounded by miles of empty woods. At one point, Joe stepped outside to smoke. I stayed by the door, watching the tree line. I didn't see or hear anything, but he came back inside pale as I had ever seen him. He said he saw someone standing near the edge of the clearing, just for a second. Then they were gone. No sound or movement, just gone. We searched again, found nothing. By sunrise, more units showed up. They went over every inch of that place. No signs of the missing hiker. No signs of anyone, really, except for those footprints in the camping gear. When the logs came back, property records still listed that area as vacant. The cabin wasn't registered under anyone's name. A few weeks later, it was gone too. When I say gone, I mean literally, like it had never been there. They sent another team to verify, and all they found were the remnants of a foundation and scattered wood, as if it had been abandoned for decades. I kept Holt's badge and evidence for a while before it was transferred to archives. Every so often I think about it. The hiker who vanished, the cabin that wasn't on the map, and that badge, sitting there like it had been waiting for us to find it. I sometimes wonder if Holt ever really left those woods, or if he's still out there. I was working the night shift, covering a stretch of highway that goes through mostly rural areas with just open road and forest on both sides. It was sometime past midnight. When you work at this hour, the world feels completely asleep except for you and the occasional trucker. I was parked in the median watching the few cars and trucks that passed when I suddenly noticed a silver sedan heading north. It wasn't speeding, but something about it caught my eye. Maybe it was just police instinct, or maybe I'd seen it before. Either way, I decided to run the plate. When the system came back, it flagged as a possible stolen vehicle out of another county. The description matched perfectly. Same make, same color, same plate. I waited until it passed, then pulled out and followed for a minute before flipping my lights on. The driver pulled over right away. I parked behind, gave dispatch my location, and approached the car from the driver's side. Inside was a man who looked to be in his 40s, clean-cut, wearing a button-up shirt. He was calm and quiet. "Evening," I said. "You know why I stopped you tonight?" He smiled politely. "No, officer." "Was I speeding?" "No," I said. "Your vehicle matches one that's been reported stolen. Mind showing me your license and registration?" He didn't hesitate at all, handed them right over. The license matched the name on the registration, both current. Everything looked legitimate. I even checked the VIN on the dash. It lined up with what I had. I went back to my cruiser to verify the details. The whole time I kept glancing at his car. He was just sitting there, hands on the steering wheel, looking straight ahead. I don't know why, but something about how still he was started to bother me. I called dispatch to double-check the record. "Hey, can you confirm that possible stolen on the silver sedan? Plate 4K9-dash?" The dispatcher paused. "Stand by." I waited, typing notes into my computer. The car sat quietly ahead of me. A minute passed before dispatch came back. 10-4, I'm showing that vehicle as recovered. "It shouldn't still be flagged recovered?" I asked. "Yeah," she said. "Hold on. That's odd. Says it was totaled in a fatal crash 3 years ago. Vehicle should have been destroyed." "What?" I muttered, thinking that clearly there was some kind of mistake. "Can you repeat that?" "Totaled in a fatal crash," she said again. "Driver deceased at the scene. It was processed and written off." I stared at the screen for a few seconds, thinking maybe I'd copied the plate wrong. But when I looked again, it was identical. Same number, same state. "Dispatch," I said. "You're sure this information's current?" "Positive. That vehicle doesn't exist anymore." I turned to look back at the road. The silver sedan was gone. Not pulled away or driven off, but gone. No taillights in the distance, no sound of an engine or tire marks. 1 second it was there, the next it wasn't. I stepped out of the cruiser, shining my flashlight around the empty highway. The beam caught nothing but asphalt and trees. I even checked further down the shoulder, thinking maybe he'd rolled forward or turned off into a hidden drive. But there was nowhere to go. Both sides of the road were thick forest for miles. I radioed back in. "Dispatch, be advised the vehicle is no longer at the stop." "What do you mean?" she asked. "It's gone. Vanished. Didn't see it leave." There was silence for a few seconds. Then she said quietly, "Are you sure about the location?" "We're not showing any movement from your GPS. I checked my coordinates. Still in the same place. I had dashcam footage running too, so I made a note to review it later." For the next 20 minutes, I drove up and down that stretch of highway, looking for any sign of the car. I even pulled into a gas station about 5 miles ahead and asked the clerk if they'd seen a silver sedan pass through recently. They hadn't seen any cars at all for the last hour. When I finally got back to the station, I pulled the footage from my dash cam. You can see everything clearly. The car pulling over, me walking up to the window, talking to the driver, then me returning to the cruiser, radioing in. But when dispatch says the car was totaled, the footage flickers for a second, like interference. And after that, the car is just gone. My headlights are shining on empty road. I had a tech guy review it, but he couldn't explain the cut. No evidence of tampering, no glitch in the timestamp. The camera just stops showing the vehicle. I tried to find the crash report later, the one from 3 years earlier. The file existed. The driver's name matched the license I saw that night. The photo attached to the report showed the same man I'd spoken to. They said he passed instantly. I never filed an official report about what I saw. I just said the stop ended with no contact. Maybe I didn't want to be the guy in the office talking about ghosts or seeing things. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing, as it shows the YouTube algorithm that you enjoy my content.